Back in the 70s and 80s, the Tandy Corporation sold many different types of computers through the Radio Shack chain of stores. Amongst them was a line of computers and peripherals branded as TRS-80. The TRS-80 was originally a desktop microcomputer system that launched in 1977 with an extensive line of upgrades and hardware add-ons. By 1979, it had the largest selection of software in the microcomputer market and was the best-selling PC until 1982, outselling the Apple II series. The TRS-80 continued to flourish with a Model 3 released in 1982 and a Model 4 released in April 1983. Because of the TRS-80's popularity, it became a generic brand name for all the computer lines and peripherals sold by Tandy, like the TRS-80 Color Computer, the TRS-80 Pocket Computer, the TRS-80 Line and Daisy Wheel printers, and many more. Amongst them was one of the few laptop computers introduced at the time called the TRS-80 Model 100, introduced in 1983. The Model 100 was one of the first notebook-style PC that featured a keyboard and LCD display and was able to be powered by 4 AA batteries for 20 hours. When changing the depleted batteries or disconnecting the power adapter, the data was protected by an internal rechargeable nickel-cadmium battery for up to 30 days. The Model 100 was manufactured by a company in Japan called Kyocera and sold under the name Kyotronic 85. Tandy purchased the rights to the machine, which was a slow seller in the Japanese market. They originally tried to market it in the US as the Micro Executive Workstation or Muse, but the term never caught on. However, its portability and simplicity made it attractive to what we called journalists back in the day, and because of this helped Radio Shack improve its reputation with the press and the industry, which in turn led to positive articles in Byte, Your Computer, and Creative Computing magazines that led to the Model 100 becoming one of the company's most popular model, with claims of having sold over 6 million units worldwide. Its specifications include a 56 keys QWERTY keyboard, a 2.4 MHz Intel ADC85 8-bit processor, 32 kilobits of ROM expandable to 64 kilobits, 8 to 32 kilobytes of RAM, an RS-232 serial port, a barcode reader input and cassette tape in-out port, an 8 lines by 40 characters LCD display with a resolution of 240 by 64 pixels. Depending on the options, it sold at a price of $799 US for the 8K version and $999 for the 24K version, representing $2,820 US, $3,625 Canadian, and €2,530 in today's economy. An extra 8K of RAM could be added for an additional $120 back in 1983, as well as other options. The Model 100's firmware was also the last Microsoft product that Bill Gates developed personally and, according to him, wrote a very high percentage of the code in the product. Like many other peripherals, the programmers had not anticipated that the unit would be used in the new millennia, so it suffers from the Y2K bug. This can be fixed today by purchasing a reprogrammed ROM or other workarounds. Being one of the first 5 laptops put out on the market back then, and one of the most recognized today, it's an important part of our history and one that holds a special place in our nostalgia of the 80s. So stick around, watch me take it apart, and give it a new life.
For you, that means a great potential for increased sales by offering the good things in a small package.
Hello everyone and welcome. I'm the Retro Repair Guy. So first of all, I have a new chair. Yeah, they say good things come to those who wait. Well, I waited. I couldn't find a chair that I liked, and I found this one for only $10 at the thrift store, okay? And, you know, the quality amazes me. Just like cars, they were made to last, right? This chair is from the 70s, and it's got, the leather is thick on it. The arms are welded on. The bottom, the other chair, I replaced the gas cylinder like 3 times. And the thing is that this one is a big screw that screws in, the bottom unscrews and rescrews. I don't know if you remember those. And of course, the nice green from the 70s. But you know what? It's in great shape. It's fantastic. I mean, look, it's been through 40 years and look what it looks like. And if you see my other chair, what it's been through in only 15 years, it's been through hell, but still I've repaired it like 4 or 5 times and, it was holding with strings last time and everything. So anyways, I'm happy. I got a new chair, and I think this one is here to stay. I also have some more good news. I have a new sponsor for this show. I'm gonna talk to you about them a little bit later, but I just wanted to mention that I'm really happy about that as well. The channel also got monetized finally. So what does that mean for people who don't know? It means that the commercials that YouTube were putting on my channel, I'm not gonna get a little percentage of it. It's not much, a couple dollars here and there. But at the same time, I'm going to have more control, not on the content of them, but where they go and stuff like that. So if there's anything bothering you, please let me know and I'll adjust them, as we go along, because I didn't have time to play with that. Also the camera, I really did break my camera. It wasn't a joke last time. I broke my camera, broke my uncle's radio, and unfortunately I had to cancel the restoration. And I'm hoping to find parts and fix it because that radio is really near and dear to me. Camera can be replaced though. So this new camera that I'm filming at now is is a 4K 30 frames per second that I'm filming at. And I just want to know your reaction, if you like it or not. How do you like the color, the quality, everything? I'm also filming in higher definition like that because I figured it'd be nicer for when I'm fixing stuff that you'd see a little bit better. But let me know your thoughts anyways, or if you like the old picture a little better, I can adapt and I can fix it up. Just wanted to hear your comments on that. And what else? I mean, today we're looking at the TRS-80 Model 100. Very important to mention the Model 100 because Tandy started calling all their computers and all their stuff, TRS-80 because it became popular. So the thing is that the TRS-80 Model 100 was not the first, but one of the first laptop computers from back then. And what's great about that is it runs on 4 AA batteries, and that's really impressive, especially for back then. So anyways, I thought it would be nice to restore it. It came as a donation when I opened the stuff with Mrs. RRG a while back, and it was full of glue, full of all kinds of stuff. I don't know what they had done to it or where it was put somewhere and glued in place. But anyways, all that to say that I cleaned it up. I did my best. So without further ado, let's go take a look. This video is sponsored by PCBWay, an exceptional manufacturer of printed circuit boards of all types. They make top quality PCBs from your Gerber files starting at only $5. Whether you're in need of getting your own PCBs manufactured with reasonable prices for production runs or simply a one-off prototype PCB, they offer excellent quality and unsurpassed service to help you with your designs and free online quotes. With quick turnaround times and fast delivery, I definitely recommend checking them out. The link is in the description below. I don't have the original power supply, but the unit only requires 6 volts and 1.1 watt, which means that my 2 amp universal power supply that varies from 3 to 12 volts and a reversible tip will do just fine. I used it to replace many missing power supplies, and it even worked on the NES system. I'll leave you a link in the description if interested. The TRS Model 100 requires a negative tip, so you'll have to make sure to connect the tip with the negative sign aligned with the word tip. The unit turns on and it goes into basic mode without any problems. I was surprised to see 29K of available RAM, which would mean that the unit had a total of 32K, 4 on board, and an extra 28K as an option. Either way, a nice little bonus. I wanted to try a little basic program to see if it runs, but sadly a few of the keys seem to not respond at all, like the P and a few other keys. So let's go ahead and open it up. The first order of business was to remove the leaking battery and visually inspect the board, and I found some pretty nasty areas. I was unsure if liquid had leaked inside or a smaller capacitor, but something had caused this corrosion. I cleaned the board gently with some 99% alcohol and a soft toothbrush before I started recapping the unit. I also noticed someone had been in here before and attempted repairs, which also makes me very nervous, especially when I see poor solder joints. I took note of the electrolytic capacitors, and they were all common values I always keep on hand from Nishikon's audio capacitor line. I began removing the capacitors and realized a couple of them were actually bipolar, as there was no negative side and the letters BP were stamped on them. So I went ahead and ordered some bipolar audio capacitors from Nishikon's UES line. I measured a few capacitors that I took out of the board, like this 47 microfarad that was showing a 5.7% voltage loss and 12 ohms of resistance. This other 470 microfarad was testing at 388 microfarad with a 17 ohm resistance. While these capacitors had not blown yet, it was clear that they had surpassed their life expectancy in this 39-year-old unit. Whenever possible, I installed higher voltages since the new capacitors are most often made smaller today and rated for higher voltages. Two of the smaller capacitors on the board tore off without any force at all as soon as I touched them. I believe the corrosion had done a number on them. All in all, I was lucky this unit even turned on. I finished replacing all the electrolytic capacitors, then cleaned the switches with electrical contact cleaner. I then went through the board and redid many of the solder joints that looked like either cold or cracked joints. The corrosion had eaten away at some of the coating, so after careful consideration, I decided I wasn't going to throw the board in the dishwasher this time, and besides, the alcohol seemed to have cleaned the board successfully. Here's the completed board, cleaned up, with brand new electrolytic capacitors installed. Last but not least, I had to replace the battery. I opted to replace it with a 1 farad supercapacitor. I purchased two different kinds to see which one would fit better. I opted for the GGH from Illinois Capacitors. A few advantages of a supercapacitor as opposed to a battery would be a faster charge and longer lifespan than the replacement battery. I bent and formed the legs to line up with the existing holes and soldered it, and it fits perfectly in the existing space. We'll see if it works a little later. So just a quick note about the capacitors. There's a couple of bipolar capacitors on this board. And even me, I almost made a mistake and replaced them with the regular ones because, I went to put it back in and I'm like, well, where's the negative side, right? I couldn't see it because they look identical. There's just a little mentioned small BP on the side. So that's bipolar. They are regular electrolytic capacitors, just one is bipolar and one has a plus and a minus. So just be careful if ever you're replacing the capacitors there. I believe there are 4 total. But just make sure you take a look. 3 are in line of 47 microfarads and they're near the, I believe the serial port. But anyways, you'll see it on the video. But the thing is, just be careful. Make sure you pay attention. Actually, whenever you're doing anything. Of course, it could, like I said, it's just they're identical is what I meant in color and everything. Now they're trying to make a little bit more, like for example, this one's green for bipolar. At least Nishikon is doing that, and they have brown and black for their audio capacitors, and the other ones are blue regular. So, but there's no standard per se. There's no color code standard for everyone. So just to say, if you run across it looks identical, but it's just a little BP, just be careful. Because these are bipolar, I had to order them separately. Apparently, keyboard failures on these units is a common thing. I began by testing each key and comparing known functioning ones to the faulty ones, but they all seemed fine and making contact when pressed. Each key is connected to a diode, so I tested each and every diode on the board, but they all tested fine. As I stated earlier, someone had attempted repairs already, so I double checked those areas first. I couldn't find anything, so I resoldered the joints of the repaired areas and also looked around for cold or cracked solder joints. As I was doing that, I noticed a suspicious looking solder joint. I tested for continuity and saw it wasn't reaching the other contact point, even though the trace was not cut anywhere. I repaired it with a small jumper to replace the entire trace altogether using a 30 gauge wire. I decided it was best not to throw this one in the dishwasher either, and brushed off both sides with some 99% alcohol and a gentle toothbrush. I then sprayed each key with some electrical contact cleaner. Lastly, I put a piece of high quality electrical tape to hold down the tiny wire repair. Let's hope we end up with a functioning keyboard. So when it comes to the dishwasher, I get comments all the time. Either I'm completely insane or I'm a genius. Anyways, all that to say that, I am careful anyways. And of course, I chose not to put these boards in the dishwasher because a lot of people are reporting that, the motherboard for the keyboard is very frail. And at the same time, the corrosion and all that had started peeling away some of the coating on the board, on the other main board. So I wanted to make sure, that don't risk it. You never know if the coating starts coming out even more. And at the same time, your go-to, I should say, product should be 99% alcohol first with a gentle toothbrush. The reason I also end up putting them in the dishwasher many times is because if a board is very hard to solder and unsolder stuff from, and I'm using a lot of flux, and I'm changing 20 or 30 capacitors or whatever the amount, and there's a lot of flux there, it gets really, really dirty and grimy, and you see the fingerprints everywhere. So by putting in a dishwasher at the end, everything comes out clean and the unit is beautiful and restored from the inside out. So, but just be careful whenever you're putting something in a dishwasher. See its state first. If you see that it's a nice motherboard, I've put the Xbox motherboards in there, the Nintendos, the Sega Genesis, everything. And it works wonders. It's beautiful. But in this case, I didn't, just because, like I said, if you see there's coating peeling off and there's, a lot of repairs on the board and stuff like that, I would stay away. As usual, I'm very happy when I see the unit come back to life. This time, I'm able to demonstrate a little basic program, and we see the unit is functioning properly. By the way, it's all caps because I had accidentally pressed the caps lock button and it remained on. You'll see this in a moment. I also wanted to test the new supercapacitor and see if it was retaining the memory. I turned it off and removed the power source for 5 minutes. No other batteries were in the unit. And success. The unit is retaining memory. You can see all the keys are now functioning properly with and without the caps lock. One last test I wanted to perform was to see if the unit can operate on 4 standard AA batteries. For this, I opened a new pack of Duracell ProCell alkaline batteries. And like a magician showing you no wires are attached, you can see the unit is really working and powered by only these 4 AA batteries, and also the supercapacitor is still doing its job of retaining memory function. So all in all, I would call this a successful restoration. So I'll be putting this one on sale on the website. I do have a few other items from previous episodes that are on there. Unfortunately, the typewriter was gone right away in a matter of seconds. And at the same time, this one, I don't have any emotional attachment to it. Now, whether I have emotional attachments or not, I always put the same effort and quality into my work. So if ever you're interested in any of these things that I restore, head on over to retrorepairguy.com. That's retrorepairguy.com. And you can take a look. I have a few of these things on sale. That'll help support the channel. Now, the thing is, of course, I cannot give any sort of warranty on these things because, you know, they're 40, 50 years old, some more, some a little less. But, you know, the point is that even though I put a lot of effort, I restore them as best as I could, you don't know, they're old, right? So, but like I said, I do the best that I can here. They should last a little while. And of course, you do help support the channel when you buy something from the website. So aside from that, thank you so much, everybody. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I really do appreciate it because just by subscribing, it helps me so much because it helps me grow. And like this, it helps me push the videos to a lot more people because or else YouTube just, sits them, puts them on the back burner there, and sometimes doesn't even send them to the people who are subscribed. So, you help me grow just by subscribing, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks with a new restoration. Bye-bye.